Hello there, welcome back to another show. This is an extra special one. It's not any of the planned videos. I'm still taking a week off next week, but I thought I'd show you this, which has come through the mail, which is the Battle Royale box set. I try and give myself at least one of these a year, which is buying something that's completely unjustified, it's way too expensive, and you can't really justify it, but you justify it anyway. Last year was Flash Gordon box set. This year was this. I mean, there were other ones that come out I don't buy. There's the Donny Day one I did not buy. There are other people who did buy, but I didn't. I just waited for the cheaper version to come out. But this one I could not resist. This is Battle Royale. I've bought this from Arrow, so I've got it a little bit early. Since I bought it directly from the store, so we got them before the people who pre-ordered them elsewhere got them. So people who have pre-ordered applied. I'm doing this Saturday morning before release, so I got this on Thursday, I think. So I got it a few days early, so that's quite nice. So I'm just going to show you what's in there. This is not an opening video unboxing. I already unboxed it. You know, I don't care about doing that stuff, but I thought I'd show you what's in it, because it is pretty beautiful. And I'll talk roughly about the films. Although I'm not going to talk about the second one. The second one's in this. That'll be a separate video, which probably what the hell is this video, because it's kind of a disaster. But I'm proud to own it in a good condition because it's so terrible. I remember it being a pretty bad film. But anyway, so we have the box set. It's pretty thick, as you can see. There's a cardboard spines, and you've got a book here, so that's pretty good. The thing flaps down here, so you've got this in the background, which is all the photos of the kids. So that's quite nice. As you probably see behind me, I've got the Battle Royale Honor and Humanity stuff. And I've also got Good Graveyard of Honor. So I have quite a few of the films from this director already. So this is not the first box set I bought of this director. So I'm not just I'm just a Battle Royale fanboy. I've got, the Battle Royale Honor, new Battle Royale Honor, Graveyard of Honor, plus a lot of his other films that have been released by Arrow. I don't have the first battles on the box set. I've also got them individually. But that was a hard one to hold off. Right, so what's inside? Well, inside the box, nice solid box. Inside you get a bunch of beautiful covers. I'm going to do them individually here, so don't worry, I haven't just hidden them or anything. This is the first one. This is the guy who was brought back. He was one of the winners from the previous one. This is the theatrical cut to the film. And this is the disc where you get a lot of the extras on it. You get the commentary. You get the 20 years later critics talking about it, including Kim Newman, Mark Schilling. You've got a lot of stuff. You've got this little booklet. Ann Bilson wrote in it. There's a lot of nice pictures in here. It's a terrific little booklet. I'll need to read through more of it, but I've been flicking through it. But since I've just got this, I've been kind of focusing on the actual films. The back, you get the map of the island. Now, the map of the island, I always think it looks a bit like the map from the Ghost of Tsushima. I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima just now, and this kind of has a similarity in the. I'm not sure if the fictionalized island and just used Tsushima as a base for the map, or it's just a very similar bit of land. But since I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima just now, this kind of reminds me of it. So there we go. So that's the first one. That's the theatrical cut. This is my favourite image. This is my favourite bit of the box set. This cover image, where you get this. I'm not a sickle on it. It's just a really terrific cover, and you get the special edition, which was also available from Arrow before. Both of these, all the titles have been available from Arrow in the past, or from Tartan in the past, but it's kind of, you're getting new extras in some of them. So you get the old extras, but you get some new stuff too. So as well as the box thing, you get this as a poster. I think everyone knew that was the most striking image. And you get the traditional poster. Traditional poster. It's great. This is my preferred cut of the film. I just think it's the more depth to it. It's just a bit longer, but it doesn't feel... It's not excessively longer. Some director's cuts and things like extended versions tend to go on way too long. But this one is just a case of adding stuff that was taken out and just give you more detail. Just adds a bit more to the characters, to the teacher character. It just makes... I think it's just a cleaner cut of the film. It just involves you more. I think the theatrical cut feels a bit brutal, a bit fast, but this one I think is a better cut. But this is the highlight disc for me. I should say that the 4K, these are two in 4K. They have remastered the film in 4K for the original film, but not the sequel. Now this is a sequel. This is the it's a different lettering. You'll notice the lettering is different for... This is Battle Royale, and the lettering here, BRR 2, which is basically to show it's Battle Royale 2. This is our hero character from Battle Royale 2. There's nothing in here, you just get the disc. Battle Royale 2 is one of those weird sequels that just don't work. And you get a different island, the island they're on, for this film, on the back as well. So Battle Royale 2 is a lot of the Battle Royale people are now sent to go after the survivor of the first one. So that's the premise of Battle Royale 2. But you also get something I have not watched yet, which is this is on a very nice cover. It seems that the artists are much better at drawing women than they are men for these kind of covers. This is the extended version of Battle Royale 2. Both of these are on Blu-ray, they're not on 4K. But to be honest, I don't think anyone's really dying for Battle Royale 2 and 4K. It's not that good a film. This is the extended version. That'll be the one I'll be watching when I watch this film, just to see what is different, because the theatrical cut is a bit of a mess. Now the sequel was made by the son of the director when the director died, and it's nowhere near as good. There's nowhere near the control. The director of the first one also directed all these other films I mentioned, Graveyard of Honor, Battle for Humanity and Honor. Was a master. He knew what he was doing. The camera setups were great. He went for realism, but some sort of absurd violence as well. And because he understood violence could be absurd and weird, so he was a master. He also knew how to set stuff up, let things lay for a while, and then bring them back up. The sequel just a mash of different stuff going on, and it really lacks any real self-control. At least the theatrical cut did. So that's I'm interested to see the extended version of the sequel. I don't expect much though from it. I just expect another mess. We also get a soundtrack. This is characters soundtrack for the first one. These are two girls who die horribly in the film, and we have one of the crazy girls. Even though this character is not actually that crazy, she behaves crazily for one scene, but she's not full on crazy. But you get the soundtrack, which I've already put onto my computer so I can listen to it whenever I want. We can also play it whenever you want. We get a card for Arrow, the normal Arrow cards. This one with Jaws of Death on it. This is a nice one. You've got Kitano, the teacher, which is Pete Kitano, the director, actor, comedian, who's hilarious in the film. And inside this is something I did not expect. So I wasn't paying that much attention to what was going in the box beyond what I saw when I first got it. So I forgot all about some of the stuff I was going to put in it. So this was a nice surprise for me. When I saw the box, I was like, what's in this? So you get these cards. I mean, in this side you get the photograph of the kids. But inside here you get the cards, as well as a card with the rules on it. So you get the rules. And you get the cards of all the characters, which I've looked into a little bit, but I put them back in a little white thing. Because so you wait, keep hold of them all. Because I know otherwise I would lose them. So this is I'm going to say this is the prettiest box I've seen since Crimson Peak. It's another great box from Arrow where the design was really like someone had put some real love into this box. like above and beyond what you normally expect. So it's very pretty, and you get the same island in this one. So that's that one. But this is something you will never get in any other release. It's a whole book about the director, Fukusatsu. I'm very bad at pronouncing his name. I mean, as you probably guessed here. So Kinji Fukasaku. I'm terrible at pronouncing his name. I've covered so many of his films and still butcher his name. So it's like, but in this book, you cover all the films of him. This is all about his career. So this is really good. This is a real investment. Because I really was looking for something like this. It's written by Tom Mess. So there's a whole book. That's one director. So I'm very much looking forward to reading this. So this is something above and beyond for the actual collection. So you get this film. I should say that Battle Royale was his most famous film. I would not say it's his best film though. I mean, Graveyards of Honor, I can't think is his best one. You know, and the original Battle Royale Honor and Humanity. Those are what I'd say is his best films. But it's still really good. This is his most famous one. That's what you get with some people. Is like they're well known for one film, but the better works elsewhere. Maybe it's not as well appreciated, but it's maybe less famous than what you was known for, but it is the superior film. This is a film. Battle Royale is a film made by a guy who was older and who had no sentimentality about humanity. It's a terrific but very bleak film, but it's not like beyond the pale bleak. There is some redeeming features. There's not all the characters behave terribly. When you go into a situation where the school kids, everyone knows what the premise is. The school kid in Japan's gone crazy. They're in a massive recession. The kids were seeing no future and starting to act out the way kids do when they realise they have no future. The adults go a bit fascist, or a lot fascist, and have this Battle Royale plan where a random school class is taking an island and have to kill each other, and that's happens once a year, so it's a threat hanging over the head of the kids. So this is when the Battle Royale you're seeing. But it's not, I mean, some of the kids behave absolutely terribly. Some of the kids use this to give into their own inner cycle and start using an excuse to brutalise people. Some other kids, they have weapons, but they're not quite sure what to do with them. They're a bit confused. And then there's kids who just, I'm not dealing with this. This is ridiculous. I will not kill people. And you see, like, two of them commit suicide. So you have a variety of the human experience. So it shows you that even though the class has been like classified as a problem, there's a wide variety of people within that one class. Just as in any society, any function in any society, there's always a wide variety of people, the good people, the bad people, the in-between people. And this film kind of shows it's a variety of people in a difficult situation. And it also, it's not sentimental. It should mean there's as many girls as there's boys in this film. And it doesn't say that all the girls are nice, all the boys are terrible. A lot of the boys are fine, a lot of the girls are fine. And some of the girls and some of the boys are absolutely horrific. You know, because it kind of shows you the kind of fractures in behaviour of boys and girls within this class. So it's much more realistic. It doesn't have a sentimental view of people generally. And you see people try to get on despite what's hanging over them, and you've seen how that can be destroyed by one simple mistake. You see people behave in the worst way possible. It is a kind of metaphor for what we do to our young, how we grind through our young and turn people who were fairly decent into, you know, sociopaths, or find ways to elevate their sociopathic capacities. So I mean, in a lot of ways, that's a metaphor of what happens to children going into war, because children go to war. Children are the ones that go to war. 16, 17-year-olds are the ones who are called up to go to war whenever war happens. They're the ones who are sent in alongside the kind of military people who are careerists. And this kind of shows you what happens when young people who are not experienced, are not ready for this, are thrown in saying you have to kill people. Some of them can do it, some of them just can't. Some of them just don't have the ability. And it's just the idea of what happens to society when war comes, when violence comes. Because war is just basically violence. We try and criticize the sense of war, but it's just violence. It's brutal violence, and it's nasty, and it's horrific, and it causes havoc. It causes just some of the worst behaviour possible. And this film just shows you it's like there is a kind of justification through the government's sanction, the way there is in war. But ultimately, once that happens, once you've given weapons to people, you ask them to behave in the most monstrous way possible, and then you just say, I don't care what the consequences are. We got what we wanted. So it is a kind of metaphor for war, but it's like people fighting you're fighting your own people here. It's like the most extreme version of war, where your tribalism has gone absolutely insane, and you're just getting people from your own class to kill each other in the most horrible ways possible. And it just shows you a cross section of people who are typically going to the army, or typically into a war situation, and you're seeing them getting destroyed, and they're likeable enough, most of them, that it's like these are not some of them are not the nicest people, but they're decent enough. They're just normal people, a lot of them, and it's completely unjustified what happens to them. So you care enough to see how horrific this thing is, and it's just a kind of metaphor for what happens to people in war, where a whole cross section of people are wiped out, and they don't deserve it just because of government sanctions. Well, that's my interpretation anyway. And it just becomes this thing of brutality and finding things within yourself you don't really want to, and it's who rises and who falls. Not just like literally as survivors, it's also who rises morally and who falls morally. Because there is a kind of difference. Some people literally do rise up and try to be better, and some of them fail within that attempt. Some of them rise up and just say, I'm not going to do this, and they succeed. Even though they die, they succeed morally. Some try and fight back, and even though it doesn't go well, they just try and fight back against a machine that's destroying them. And again, it's a metaphor for how people react to war. Some people really object to war. Some people just go along and then they're destroyed by it. And some people just try and survive it. And it's the same thing with what happens to people within a war, like the occupied, the innocent people who are destroyed by the violence. It's a metaphor of this violence that's just running out of control, that it can be controlled because the society has gone wrong. So instead of letting it explode in the streets where it's going to explode anyway, they try and compress it to one island. It's coming to this right-wing thing of we can focus it in one area, we can control it, and it's like trying to over-control something. It's an impulse within a society that has 40 bits already. So it's just a perverse manifestation of something that's already there, which is kind of the idea of this. Is like even though it's a sci-fi setting, it's kind of a manifestation of tensions already in the Japanese culture that the film's just shown off via this more absurd premise, but it is kind of a premise that people can get behind. It's outlandish enough so you can distance yourself a little, but it's also so many ties to what you've seen of humanity through wars and through wars are also absurd, really, an absurd way of actually dealing with problems. But we've seen humanity do some really stupid things and cause mass violence over time, and that's what the kind of film was. That's a feeling the film's trying to show, and try to show the absurdity of the adults' solution to a problem they haven't really dealt with. People are rejecting them because they're failing. That's it. I mean, you find out the teacher asked, was I a good teacher? Later on, Tano's character, because he's the one in charge of the Battle Royale thing for this class, because he was a teacher. And the character says, no, you weren't, you're terrible, you're boring. It's like the older society is not paying any attention and not taking responsibility for what their actions have caused. And it's just this mess that's happened because of that. And it just becomes this kind of exploration of a society that has kind of collapsed into its worst instincts but won't admit it because it's militarising itself and try to go for a militaristic solution to something that's a social problem and it's more complicated than a simplistic might means right solution. It's just not going to work. And the kids are stuck in a situation, most of them know that's not going to work. It's a simplification of something that's more deeper. Because a lot of them are already fighting each other due to social pressures, due to some characters dealing with abuse, some characters dealing with death in their families. It's just a whole scale problem that they have not dealt with. People having suicides in their families, people who just been sent to foster cares and all the rest of it. It's just a difficult situation Japan and this world cannot deal with. So it's a wonderful film. It's very much a film within the genre that the director, he likes making films with a kind of a realistic aesthetic and then adding some more like outlandish things to it, the more sudden, they feel absurd and surreal, but have a kind of realistic base to them. That's what his style is. Whenever he tries to go outside of that, films aren't as good because he's got a base of experience that he can understand, and once he's in that milieu, he can really do a lot with. And this is just perfect for him. This film's just perfect for him. It's just a wonderful film. It's lasted 20 years. It's had so many rip-offs. There's a now video game modes called Battle Royale. That's how big it is. But of course, they won't go into the more disturbing aspects of that, which is it's teenagers killing each other. They take away the really disturbing element of a Battle Royale mode should be Battle Royale. Instead, it's Fortnite, which is like really absurd. It's like, we make them cartoonish, so we don't have to think about it. But we know any subtext of what's actually was the base of this, and we're actually just going to do a simplification of it. But anyway, that's my vague and rambling views on Battle Royale. I was just going to show the box. Obviously, I was going to say a couple of things about it, but it's not a full review or anything. I don't think it's really. It's such a weird film. I think it's kind of a case of these are my thoughts on it, but it's kind of a messy, punky movie where it's like it's trying to explode so many things in your face to make you think about some things that disturb you. It's not like a film that's about the intellect. It's a film about what's viscerally wrong with a society and using sci-fi conceits to express it, to show off the kind of rumblings below the surface. And that's what makes it so good. What makes it so good after 20 years, because it's like, this still goes on. Well, this stuff's still going on. I mean, basically, teachers and kids hating each other, disruptions in the classroom, a society that doesn't seem to care about the future of its own children, all that stuff we're seeing all through the world. And I think that's the reason why this film's still so successful. It's just like, it just nailed something that we all feel. It kind of works the same way as something like Taxi Driver works, where it's like, it's looking at a certain element, and it's showing the ugliness of the element, and it's not trying to prettify it, and that's why it's successful. It means it's like it's kind of a messy artistic achievement, but that sometimes the messiness is what you really want. That's much more pure version of what you need. You don't need something that's distant. You need something that's just visceral and shows you the horrificness of the emotions involved. So, I'll stop now before I ramble even more. I hope you enjoyed this. There's a little extra special thing, but I'm still taking next week off. We'll have the podcast to run tomorrow. Apart from that, I'll be off next week. So, don't expect anything then. Well, that's me for now. I'll see you later.